In this section, we're going to talk about packaging. So, we all need packaging in order to get the products from the manufacturing all the way to us in our homes. So in this section, we're going to talk about how can we create packaging for the right products that's as circular as possible. Now, we're coming from an okay place here. So you'll all probably remember when we used to give away plastic bags for free in every single store we went to. Now that's changed quite a lot in the UK and many other countries over the last years, which is great because we used to get plastic bags, not think about it for a second, and send them almost after a 10-minute use to landfill. So that's changing and that's brilliant. Why was that bad? Because those plastic bags were single use, they were going into the environment, and then they were being tangled up, whether it be on the land or in the sea. And that resource was almost never used again. So we need to pivot to this model whereby packaging can be reused, it comes from renewable resources and all these things. So if you, like me, order some things online, you might actually have a lot of cardboard mounting up in your house at different times of the year. So we need to think about, okay, cardboard, is it the right type of packaging? Is it the most circular packaging we have? So there's a lot of great things about cardboards in that, it's coming from trees, and a lot of, trees are renewable, you can replant them, but we need to think about the rate of cardboard we're using. So how can we use cardboard and ensure that it's coming from at least 50% recycled sources? So yeah, here we go. So what else can we think about when we think of cardboard? Well, or packaging in general. If the product's tiny, we don't want to wrap it in a massive box because again, we're using more resources than we need. And when we try to protect the product, we don't want to cover it in all this plastic single use again that we don't have a use for afterwards most of the time. And it's also really challenging to recycle in most places. So think about the material you use inside and how could that also be from a renewable source like recycled paper or some others. But we also want to think about, okay, what else? Okay, that's cardboard, but how could we use other materials? So these glasses, so the material that's used here, which you probably won't quite be able to see, but the material that's used here, instead of it being a big piece of plastic or a big piece of leather, it's using recycled leather from also within the fashion industry, instead of using new virgin materials. So we can think about packaging that way. What we also talked about earlier in the course is how can we make our product out of a mono material? Now, if you only use one material, it makes the recycling at the very, very end a lot easier. Packaging is exactly the same. So quite often you might have had an envelope like this and you look inside and it's got that plastic bubble wrap. Again, that means you've got two materials and it means the recycling is really, really challenging. So this one, really, really simple. Instead of having the plastic bubble wrap, it just got the corrugated paper inside. Works exactly the same, done lots of product testing with people around this. So how can we keep moving to these mono materials when we think about packaging? The next one to think about is actually, do we need packaging in the first place? How can we use packaging that's reusable multiple times instead of just that once and then going directly to recycling or maybe even landfill? So you might have gone to your local coffee shop, picked up a coffee. There's a good chance it comes in a single-use container, right? Well, how can we all move to things like this? Containers which are being designed in a way to be used hundreds, maybe even thousands of times. And this uses significantly less resources than those single-use cups. When we multiply them after every single week, we maybe have one or two. That's a lot of resources over a space of a week, a month, a year, over your lifetime. Whereas if we just actually create products and packaging that can be used and reused many, many times, this is far better for the environment. But what about the next level? How can we think about packaging that can go back to nature? So maybe it isn't recycled and turned into something else again and again. It's been designed in a way, made from nature, and go back to nature. So we see a few different brands experimenting with this, whether it be bioplastics and things like this. But one of the ones which is further ahead, which I really, really like, is actually companies starting to use mushrooms for packaging instead. Now this particular one, it's grown just outside London. I'm in London right now. So this is a very local to local type of packaging that can be used. And once I've used it, then I can actually put it back in my wormery that I have or my compost, which the council then can collect. And then some way it goes back into the nutrient cycle. Again, this isn't perfect because it still uses resources, but it's a lot better than using a single-use piece of plastic, which might be on the planet for many, many, many years. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the different types of packaging we can use. And in summary, we want to use packaging that's the right size for the product, that allows it get to the end consumer in a clean way. Keeps it clean, not dirty. It means that it keeps the moisture out, all of these things. Because if the packaging fails and the product gets dirty or damaged, then it's a good chance that product might be destroyed. So the packaging is actually really, really key when we think about the circular economy. And beyond that, we want to think about what are the materials it's been used with, how recyclable is it, how reusable is it, or can we even get to a stage whereby there's zero packaging needed? And a lot of you might have local stores to you whereby you bring the packaging to your local food store and you get your flour, your pasta, your washing detergent, all of these things in containers you already know. That is the most circular, as in there's no packaging and you're just reusing materials and containers you already have. So I hope that gives you a good indication of how we can think strategically about the most circular packaging for your product.